Morning. I hope everyone's well. I put out a video yesterday, day before. I did it across a few platforms, so it was on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just asking people sort of what topic they'd like me to cover, really. And I've been really surprised by the number of replies I've got. I've had quite a few replies to posts and a few messages and stuff. I'm really grateful to those who've taken their time to get back to me. Thank you. It's really helpful because I'd rather do stuff people are interested in rather than just me sat here chatting to a phone. Overwhelmingly, people want to know how much money's been spent to do this and how much more money I'm likely to spend. People are interested in planning side of things as well, but yeah, definitely the financial aspects are of interest, it seems. And I completely get that. I think I'd be the same if it was me looking at someone else's videos. So yeah, I will do that. What I'm going to do though is I'm probably going to break it down into a few videos. I did sit down and try and do some recording of it last night, and it was heading towards 40 minutes and I was only sort of like halfway through, and who wants to sit and listen to me chat for that long at you? I think I'd struggle with that. So what I'm going to do is break it down into a few videos. I will do a final video that rounds it all up and does give full figures and the final figure I've spent and that sort of side of things. So I'm not trying to hide anything. It's just that it's quite complicated. What I've spent and what you need to spend are potentially two very different things depending on the amount of land you want to buy, etc., and what sort of home you buy to have here. And there are just so many variables, and that kind of needs explaining, or else it's just going to be a terrifying figure and people are going to think they can't do this, or maybe can't do this, and that would be a real shame if, realistically they could. It's just, it would be different for them, because I think every journey like this is different and individual to the people doing them. So I'll get on with that hopefully later or maybe tomorrow, but I'll try and get that out in the next few days. I've been asked by a few people to just explain who I am and why I'm doing this, and a bit of my background. So I'm just going to do that quickly now. I'm trying to keep my videos relatively short, because I'm very conscious people don't have hours of their day to sit and watch YouTube. So my name's Jo. For anyone who hasn't been here before or seen me before, then I sold my house 18 months ago and bought a 30-acre agricultural field that I'm now trying to build a small farm on. So my background's very different. I studied nursing at university. When I left uni, I went and worked in environmental education for a while. I grew up in a family that ran an environmental education charity. And my brother still runs the charity now. So the environment and conservation and wildlife and nature has always been very important to me and is very much part of my upbringing. From there, I ended up joining the ambulance service. I worked on the NHS emergency ambulances for 21 years. I loved that job. I genuinely loved my role there. Ambulance work is very varied. You don't have the same day twice. It can be very stressful. That's where it got to with me. I got to the point where my body let me down, really, and my health let me down, and I just couldn't keep doing the job. I don't think you'd find many ambulance people out there who've been doing the job for a few years who don't have back, neck, shoulder, knee, ankle issues. Some all of them, some just one or two of them. For me, it's certainly my neck and my lower back were big problems for me. Also, I was diagnosed with PTSD a few years back now. That took quite a big toll on me. I was surprised how much it affected me, actually. I'm a million times better now. Day to day, I'm generally fine. Unless I get really, really tired. If I get really, really tired, it can pop up again. But yeah, 99% of the time, I'm absolutely fine, really. But unless you've experienced it, I don't think you can necessarily understand just how much of an effect it can have on you, and just your life in general. For me, it was a rollover. I was in a passenger in a rollover in an ambulance. So it wasn't the job. It was actually the journey that did me in. And yeah, admittedly, I'd already built up 18 years of ambulance work and that sort of stress and stuff that goes on with that. And I think that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. But it gave me a very significant fear of travelling in a vehicle and driving, which obviously was problematic in that role. But yeah, I loved the job. I did. I really loved it. Yes, it can be distressing. Yes, you can see some horrible things, but you also see some lovely things. You know, I've delivered a lot of babies, and that's been lovely. It's stressful for ambulance crews. I don't think any of us do it regularly enough to be 100% confident that everything's going to go fine. But equally, we know what to do with it if it doesn't. And yeah, I was lucky. Everything always went smoothly. Even delivered twins at one point. So yeah, there are some lovely jobs, and you know, there's a lot of elderly care which I enjoyed. It can be a frustrating process if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and none of the services are available to get hold of to help these people. But you know, we could make a real difference to someone's care, and we could also be there if someone was passing away. You know, we couldn't save everyone, but we could put things in place to help someone's passing be more comfortable, and we could help the relatives in those scenarios. You know, we could hopefully give them some comfort. So, you know, yes, it can be upsetting, it can be sad, but most of the time we can do some good whilst we're there. Even if, you know, if the patient's already gone, then we can still help the relatives that, you know. And I hope over the years I have helped a lot of people and done some good, because I don't think you'd do the job if that wasn't your motivation. It's too much of your time. It's too exhausting. The hours are tough. So yeah, it was a great job, and I genuinely loved it. But you know, things come to an end, and it was time for a change. So I ended up moving well out of that field. I'm not in the medical field at all anymore. I decided I wanted to be my own boss. As with any big corporation, the NHS is a beast, and the management can be quite frustrating. And I don't mean individual managers necessarily. It's just that, you know, government rule it, and a lot of the decisions made are not, as with any big organisation, they're just not practical for the actual people doing the job. So yeah, I quite wanted to be able to make the choices and the decisions myself. So I ended up buying a pet care franchise. I've been running that for 5 years now. And it's gone well. Like, it's had its ups and downs. Like, I've never even worked for a retail style business because we're basically selling time. So I've never worked for a retail style business, let alone owned and run one. So it's been quite a steep learning curve. But it's gone okay. Yeah, we're getting there. I'm not sure the government are massively keen on small business, or the last few governments have been massively keen on small businesses, so they don't give us much help. And I won't get into my thoughts on that, but yeah, it's fine, and it runs well now without my input day to day, which is what I needed. I need to be able to put my full-time efforts in here, on the land and running the farm. So, but I still need an income. So whilst I'm setting up, so that's kind of where I am with that. Yeah, so that's kind of my background. Why am I doing this? I've always wanted to have a small holding or a small farm. I didn't think it would ever be possible. I live in an area, I'm in the southeast of England. So I'm sort of on the Surrey-Sussex borders, so about as an expensive area of the country as you can get to. To buy a 30-acre field, so it would be considered a small holding. It's certainly not the size of a farm. So to be buying something like this with a house on it ready made, you'd be looking at around 2.5 million, I suspect, which is not the kind of money I have ever had or ever will have, I don't think. So that wasn't feasible, and certainly working for the NHS that didn't make it seem any more feasible. How did I raise the capital to get to being able to do this? It was just through luck and property, really. So I bought my first property when I was 17, 18. I bought it with my brother. It was just a 2-bedroom flat in Guildford. And I think it was £55,000 we paid for that, which, to be honest, these days you struggle to buy a good sized barn for. So yeah, that's just how house prices have changed, really. I stayed there for 20 years. I bought my brother out when he went and got married, and I bought him out, and I stayed in there because it was close to work, and yeah, it was good for socialising because it was just a quick taxi ride back home after an evening out. So it suited me down to the ground. From there, I kind of wanted a bit more space, and I didn't really want to be in a flat anymore. So I ended up buying a 2-bedroom bungalow. I went over the border into Hampshire because prices were slightly lower there. And then with the equity I'd built up in the flat, because I'd built up a lot of equity in the flat and I had a very small mortgage there, I was able to do a loft conversion. I converted the bungalow into a chalet bungalow, basically. It was a 3-bedroom chalet bungalow by the time I'd finished with it. I was there for 4 years. I made quite a nice profit on it, having done that work, and just with house prices rising anyway. So I then ended up moving up back to my home village where I grew up. That was with the help from my uncle as well, because my uncle sadly passed away, and he very generously left me a very kind inheritance. It was a large inheritance. I was very lucky. So that allowed me to move back to where I grew up and buy a 4-bedroom house there, along with the profits I'd made from the house and flat sales and doing the work to do up the properties as I went. So that left me with quite a healthy budget coming here, which I will go through in another video. But yeah, I'd always wanted to have the small holding experience or the farming experience. Probably goes back to the environmental education days. So I'm very keen to go organic here. I'm very keen to improve the quality of the land I have here, the soil. It has been farmed, I don't know if intensively is the correct word, but it has had summer and winter maize on it for several years. Yeah, and it was, as I've said in previous videos, it was just stubble when I bought it, stubble and weeds. So a lot of work's gone into the soil here. We did have to spray, we did have to use weed killer, which is never my first choice, but it just wasn't financially viable to do it any other way. So yeah, that's me really. I think that's more than enough for today. But yeah, some people say I'm mad doing this. Some people say I'm brave doing this. I think it's a mix of the two. It is a gamble at the end of the day, and it's a big gamble. You know, you're selling your property, and if it doesn't work out here, then to resell the land could well take a year or two. And during that time, I will need to work out how on earth I'm going to live somewhere. So yeah, it is a real gamble. I'm kind of unlucky in as much as it is just me. I wasn't able to have children, so, and I don't think I'd have been able to do this on my own and with children as well. I think it would have been too much of a gamble for me personally. But equally, what a life kids could have in this sort of environment. So it's yeah, it's a really personal decision. I think everyone needs to make their own choices. Everyone knows their own finances, because money is important, sadly. I would love it not to be, but this is not a cheap process in my experience. I know there's other people out there who have done things really cheaply, and all credit to them. But that just has not been my experience, and I'll explain why again in another video. So yeah, is it cheaper than going out and buying £2.5 million worth of property? Absolutely. Yeah, it's nowhere near that cost. Nowhere near that cost. I don't have anywhere near that money, so it can't be anywhere near that cost. But could you do it for 100 grand? I personally, I don't think that's possible. I think it would be a real struggle. And I think you'd be setting yourself up for a real battle. But has someone done it for that? I'm quite sure they have. So it's down to the individual. It's down to your skill set. Yeah, but we'll go through all that on the financial videos anyway. But yeah, no, if it's something you want to do, then no, it's possible. It is possible. I wouldn't have taken this punt if I wasn't fairly confident. You can never be 100% sure, but fairly confident that I can achieve this. But yeah, just look into it, do some reading. That's what I did. I spent 10 years doing various bits and pieces of research, not all the time obviously, but it's always been something I've been looking into. So yeah, and there's a lot of information out there, and I'm happy to share what I know. But equally, as I say, it's always worth speaking to a professional as well. They are brutally honest, which can be really frustrating, but equally it's necessary. You need to be realistic. But yeah, I'll get the finance videos done as soon as I can and get them out. All right, if you stayed this long, well done. It's lovely to meet you all, and yeah, take care, guys. I was just sitting here editing this video this evening, and I realised I missed out probably one of the most important aspects of why I'm doing this. I think I was panicking about how long this video is going to be, but self-sufficiency is quite a big driver in this. I've grown my own fruit and veg for several years now. I mean, I started off when I was in the flat. I had a very small garden there, and I started growing fruit and veg there. In very small, it was literally a container garden, and as my gardens grew when I moved, then my vegetable patches and fruit tree options grew. So yeah, I've always enjoyed growing my own fruit and veg. I enjoyed having chickens. I was looking into some sort of dairy animal as well before, with my last property, because I would have just about had space for that in the garden. But yeah, it's not a survivalist thing or anything like that. I just enjoy growing my own fruit and veg. And I'm reasonably green fingered, it turned out. So that will also be part of the plan here. It's not going to be a main selling point or anything like that, but there will likely be excess fruit and vegetables that I'll be selling alongside the poultry products, be that eggs, meat, or just birds for other people to have as their back garden pets. So yeah, I should have included that. I am interested in canning. I don't know much about it yet. I haven't done a lot of it. But once I get my polytunnel properly up and running and I'm growing enough veg, if I'm growing it, then I want to be able to store it. There's no point wasting it. Having hundreds of freezers is not an option here because I don't have solar power. I mean, I do have solar power. That's all I do have. Sorry. I don't have mains electricity here. And whilst in the winter it's so cold here anyway, I don't think it would matter too much if the power was out. I still wouldn't be willing to rely on my solar, say in spring or autumn, to store all my produce that I've taken the time to grow and then prep and get put away. So yeah, there's that aspect as well. So I am interested in growing my own food. I would love to be completely self-sufficient here, really. Long-term plan would eventually be to have some sort of house dairy production here, on a remarkably small scale, be that cow, goat, I don't know yet. Space-wise, I think goats are more likely, but preference-wise, it would probably be a house cow with a couple of house cow friends. So yeah, and that's not going to happen for a few years now. You know, I've got to spend my money actually building the business. That's got to be my priority. But the fruit and vegetables start coming this year, and I am going to be planting a small orchard in the spring as well. So get that underway, because obviously that's going to be a few years until that's producing any real quantity of fruit. So yeah, that's I had to add it in because that really is a huge part of my motivation of being here. So yeah, sorry I missed that off. And it's only added an extra 3.5 minutes, so it's not too bad.